Questions of Doom.
Hello and welcome back to another
Questions of Doom.
In this series, as ever, I attempt to answer questions that you send my way using the archaeosoup@gmail.com email address, as displayed on the YouTube channel homepage, but as you'll also see at the end of this video. In answering these questions by video, it is my fond hope that the answer is not only useful to the person who's asked the question, but also anyone else out there who may be wondering the same thing. Now, today's question of doom is along the lines of a topic which is actually quite often sent my way. It's a topic which people want me to comment on quite frequently. But this particular wording of the question I thought was worthwhile responding to publicly, and hopefully it'll be useful to other people who've asked similar questions. It actually comes from Mr. Peter Wood, or Pete Wood, and goes as follows. A touchy subject for Archaeo Chat. Dear Mr. Soup and Mrs. Soup, firstly, congratulations on your marvellous YouTube channel, which I was introduced to last year as I began my online archaeology A-level from college on the net. Oh, superb. Now, I now find myself at the beginning of the second year, and also the beginning of the human race, studying, as we are, human evolution in Africa, and when and why they eventually spread out from there. A running theme I'm picking up on in this section of my course is the delicacy and tact required when presenting or discussing human evolution to people of more religious than scientific leanings. This led me to various online discussions and videos, such as the debate between Bill Nye, the science guy, and Ken Ham, who I'm assured is not in fact a Chinese TV chef. Well, I suppose yes, there is Ken Hom. Yeah, I can see why there might be some confusion. But yeah, okay. Would you care to weigh in on this ongoing, rather touchy subject? Or alternatively, could you offer any advice to those of us who may wish to present and discuss archaeology in general without upsetting the delicate sensibilities of people of faith? Thank you, Pete Wood. Now, well, Pete, you ask a very true question. This is a very honest question. Lots of people, as I say, ask this question of me. And in the past, I've been asked to downright make a video saying, "You're an idiot. If you believe in creation, you're a moron." Which I'm not going to do. And there are several reasons for this. But the main reason is because it's rude, to be honest. It's very, very rude just to go, "You're an idiot and you should know it. I know it. Why don't you?" So, as you say, it is important to want to discuss this stuff, I feel, in a way which doesn't just set out to upset people. However, I would take issue with one of the things that you say, and that is that people with faith have a delicate sensibility, or in some cases they have a very delicate sensibility. There's a difference between a delicate sensibility and being willfully ignorant, or willfully not wanting to hear what someone else is saying. I know many very religious people, some of whom I just do not agree on, on key things such as evolution, or key things such as elements of morals and the truth of right and wrong in human society or human societies. But none of these people, for the most part, would I class as having a delicate sensibility. They're all very robust individuals, and they can take a good debate on the chin. Usually we end up agreeing to disagree, or actually usually we go away, both of us, with something to think about from our conversations. But I've never really had a situation where I say, Darwin, and they go, and run out the room looking for some scented tissue paper to wipe their tears. Delicate sensibility, I suppose, I know it's just a phrase that you've used, but maybe we don't want to set out from the off presuming that people with faith, or with a faith, are so easily upset, I suppose. Now, that said though, there is this element of, there is the need to have, yes, a sense of tact, and a sense that other people won't always share your opinion. This actually applies within the sciences as well. There are people out there who don't believe, for example, in the out of Africa. There are scientists who advocate a multi-regional theory of evolution. So actually it's entirely possible you can be talking about this in a room full of anthropologists and you'll upset someone in that room. So again, these things are very fluid and there's a whole spectrum of ideas, thoughts and beliefs. The second thing that I'd like to pick up on is that you say that there's the need to have tact when presenting and discussing human evolution to people of more religious than scientific leanings. And again, there, I suppose, there's the assumption that there are those two different types of people, and name the two shall meet. Again, I know many very religious, very scientific people. I know religious skeptics, dare I say. I know people who believe in God or a God, but who refuse to allow that faith get in the way of observable truth, or, for example, universality when it comes to, say, geology, the depth of time on this planet, this kind of thing. So again, it's possibly helpful to from the offing accept that there are various types of people with various types of beliefs, and also they are variously open to debate, discussion, and even changing their mind. So I think that's probably a really good place to start from, is not to be overly concerned about the other person, so long as you're not just turning up to go, you're an idiot, because if you do that, frankly, no matter who you're talking to, or no matter what their beliefs, you're going to insult them, aren't you? So don't be too concerned about the other person. If they're reasonable, they should be able to listen to you without their head exploding, or without wanting to murder you. But I do know what you mean. I am being a little bit facetious, but at the same time I'm not. I do genuinely believe an awful lot of the stuff I've just said. It's all true. This spectrum of reactions that you'll come across when talking, especially about evolution. But I do know what you're talking about. I know what you mean. There are people who are, some people would say devout, other people would say stubborn, and there are people who do not and will not ever want to hear what it is that science or anthropology, not that anthropology isn't a science, but you know what I mean, or biology is saying about our origins, or the best information that's coming to the fore about how human beings came to exist on this planet. There are people who just will never want to hear that. And I suppose actually, in terms of discussing how to approach that, I mean, I've already sort of touched on this in the past. There was a chap in the US from a very rural community where I talked about maybe using the analogy of farming. The fact that animals change observably when the farmer decides to breed them in a certain way, and that is forced evolution. Maybe using that as an analogy. So I have talked about this in the past, but at the same time, there will be situations where it's just never going to get through, and perhaps it's worthwhile accepting that these people don't want to and will not ever change their mind, and that's okay. And this is, I suppose, the most difficult part of knowing something, or knowing what you think is a really good idea. As I say, you run the risk of saying, I know the answer, because we don't know the answer. We are still figuring the answer out. But knowing a really good idea, knowing something amazing, there's something really painful about knowing that, and then knowing that other people don't care. Other people do not want to know. I'm reminded of a conversation I had back when I was working in York at the York Archaeological Trust, and I was talking to a lady about how inbred the human race is, just how genetically undiverse in many respects we are, and how closely related we are to each other. And she just stopped me dead. She went, "I don't want to know. I don't care." Like that, really, really sober, with a little hint of aggression. because she didn't want to know. She didn't want to hear that she was possibly just as related to someone from Australia, or just as related to someone from China as she was to her next door neighbour, as she was indeed to me. She was from the US, and she really just did not want to hear that. And that's painful, that's hard to deal with, because you're trying to share an exciting and liberating idea, an idea that we are brothers in a species, or sisters in a species, and she, no, la 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 la. That's hard to deal with. I'm not saying it's not, but, and this is the kicker, you just have to. You have to accept that there will be people who don't care, who do not want to know. There will be people who will have an extraordinary background, really strange, maybe even homeschooled background, where they do absolutely believe something to be true, but they are open to debate because they're curious, and those people are worthwhile talking to and worthwhile risking the frustration with. But trying to talk to some people, it just won't work, and it's kind of like entering a conversation or a debate with people where they're sort of put nose to nose, and all they do is scream at one another. Neither of them are listening, but neither of them, therefore, are going to change their minds. They're both just adamant that the immovable object and the unstoppable force, sometimes that's just going to happen, and I think that's the most difficult thing to accept when you are a scientist or a thinking person or a philosopher or whatever. It's really, really difficult to just accept that. And I'm exposed to that all the time on YouTube. I get emails from people constantly saying, denounce these people, kind of thing. I get emails all the time, or comments indeed on YouTube videos, where the video's got nothing to do with religion, but someone finds a way to weave in some cynical comment about faith. And I think that probably comes out of this frustration that people have. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is just a fact of life. So, in summary, I would say I always come down on being polite. Be honest, be forthright, be polite. Don't set out to insult people. And if people don't want to hear today, maybe they'll want to hear tomorrow. Maybe you're giving them something to think about. But the last thing that will achieve anything, but also the last thing that will make you feel any better, is just getting angry, getting frustrated, or, as I say, the whole sort of "you're an idiot, muppet, Bible," that kind of thing. What does that achieve? It doesn't really achieve anything. Hopefully these thoughts have been useful. Hopefully, Pete, you found some of these thoughts useful. These are very interesting ideas. When you're first exposed to the origins of humanity, it can be amazing, it can be mind-blowing, and you want to share these ideas far and wide with as many people as possible. But there will be people who just don't want to know, and it is just the most difficult thing to accept that. And it's I would say actually that. Well, actually, I'm reminded of there's something that I saw a couple of days ago where someone said, "I don't care what you believe; it's how you behave that makes you a good person." And I think that's probably very apt for when thinking about this type of stuff. It doesn't really matter what someone believes. It doesn't really matter what they believe happens to them after they die. It really doesn't matter. It's not going to affect you or me what someone else believes. So long as it's not, actually insidious or brainwashing someone. But anyway, that's off to one side. What matters is how they're behaving. And if they're behaving like unreasonable so-and-sos, then you need to behave like a reasonable so-and-so. And also, you need to behave in a way which isn't causing you stress or, anguish. And surely that's got to be a good way to start these kind of conversations. Behave properly. Behave and also listen in the same way that you would like to be listened to in that sense. Because who knows, maybe some of what they're saying might challenge you. I'm not saying you might go over to their faith or whatever, but you may well find yourself going, okay, right, I have a new appreciation as to why it is that you are saying what you're saying. So I would say start from that standpoint. Listen, be polite, and accept that at some point you may well reach a moment in a conversation with some people where you go, okay, right, there's no need to keep on talking about this. I'll just go home. But then that makes it sound like you're going to doorsteps. Hello, have you heard about the love of evolution and how it might change your life? But you know what I mean. If you meet someone in a bar or something, you know, be prepared to walk away. Anyway, hopefully, as I say, this has been interesting. Hopefully it's been a little bit amusing, and hopefully this will help other people. All these other people who keep on sending me a very similar question to have a bit of a think about it. And as I say, as much as anything else, challenge your own preconceptions about religious people. They're not all stupid. Challenge your preconceptions about your own ideas. Your ideas aren't perfectly formed yet. These ideas are actually still in the process of being developed, as it were. That's the great thing about science. But also, hopefully, this is giving you some food for thought when it comes to that difficulty of just accepting that some people will never agree with you. You know, and that can be really hard. Anyway, guys, as ever, please do, until next time, take very good care. Bye-bye.